tell you.
What?
Food.
That's crazy talk. Come on.
Things.
This is terrible news, everybody.
Yeah.
All these different things, all this information online. How do we know what to do?
There's one expert, and that expert can't lie to you. It doesn't know how to, and that's your own body. And one person's medicine is another person's poison. Also, a lot of times when you go onto these diets, it's not necessarily what you're eating that's making the difference. It's what did you just cut out.
So Todd, I'm confused. There's keto, fasting, carb cycling, Atkins, all these different things, all this information online. How do we know what to do?
I can add to that, there's vegan, vegetarian, there's carnivore diets, there's all these different things. And the whole thing is like you got this expert saying one thing, that expert saying something else, and they got all the science to back them up. So what I always go back to is there's one expert, and that expert can't lie to you. It doesn't know how to, and that's your own body.
Liar.
Yeah. And one person's medicine is another person's poison. So we have people, especially in Canada, that come from all over the world. Some from closer to the equator, some from, us would be more European descent, Asian descent, and we got people from different parts of the world. There isn't going to be one specific way of eating that's going to work for everyone, because your genome has evolved differently. If you just think of it this way, do you honestly think that an Eskimo would be eating the same food as a pygmy from Africa? Right? It's a completely different landscape that they've developed themselves on.
Yeah.
So that's where it can be a bit tricky. Also, now what we have with airplanes and everything, unlike 200 years ago, now you're getting someone who, let's say, is a pygmy from Africa having a child with an Eskimo. Maybe that doesn't necessarily happen too often, but you kind of get the idea. You got people from completely different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. So now we got to figure out, well, what's going to work best? So if you start looking at some of these different studies, there's a time to do each thing, but it's not necessarily all the time. So if you look at the keto diet, it was originally developed for kids that were having epileptic seizures, and so they started to notice that with doing that diet, it was helping reduce the seizures, but they kind of knew that maybe that's a little too much fat in the diet. However, most people now eat too many simple sugars, too many carbs on their own, their blood sugar levels all over the place. So then they switch to a keto diet, and for a certain amount of time that can help them out to help level out the blood sugar levels. Also, a lot of times when you go onto these diets, not necessarily what you're eating that's making the difference, it's what did you just cut out. Cutting out the potato chips, the Tim Hortons, because all the diets are going to tell you that. They're all going to tell you,
what?
Don't eat this fast food.
That's crazy talk. Come on.
So sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but so you look at what does all these diets all agree on, and they all agree not to eat the McDonald's, not to go to Pizza Hut, not be drinking beer all the time, and all these things.
This is terrible news, everybody.
Yeah, so, especially with holiday seasons being around the corner. So first of all, what we take out is going to make a bigger difference than what we put in. So if someone was to do the keto diet or a vegan diet, which are very much different, they're still going to get some benefit from either one because all that garbage they took out, as well as the quality of the food. So all these diets are going to tell you about the quality of food. If you farm your own food, if you have your own garden. Now, back in our day, we are getting a little older, but I remember where I grew up in northern Alberta, so many people had gardens, and I don't see that as much anymore now.
Yeah.
So having your own garden and the quality of the food. So these are the things that really make a big difference. From there, you just have to understand with a vegan diet. Now, number one, if you have a hard time with what happens with animals in factory farms, which is terrible, and what happens to the environment, and you say, hey, that's the most important thing to me, then great, do the vegan diet. Or maybe do it for a certain amount of time, because a lot of people have been eating too much meat, and that's not good for the digestion system, so go on a vegan diet for a while and flesh that out. A lot of people have noticed going on a vegan diet for a year or two works great, and sometimes after a year or two, they start to notice some detrimental effects of cutting out the meat. But some people do great on it all the time. So it's all about each individual is going to be a little bit different. Realize cutting the garbage out is way more important. And you know, same for intermittent fasting. There's times to do it, but if you don't know what you're doing, don't just read a book, go, oh, intermittent fasting. Because as I've talked about before, we're creatures of habit, and most people are already going long periods of time without eating, then gorging late at night. So then they see intermittent fasting and they go, well, that's what I've been doing all along, because subconsciously they want to avoid those changes. We want to justify what we're doing. Smoking cigarettes, we want to justify that. So unfortunately, I can't give an exact answer on that, but that's basically why we have so many different things that kind of seem to contradict each other.
Interesting.